Amira, thank you very much for being with us in Antwerp tonight to talk about real news. And the first question, of course, is if we say real news and we combine that with Israel and the Palestinian territories, we know that it is damn hard to get the reality into the news rather than the propaganda. You, as a journalist, have been living in that reality for so many years, working in it. What are your rules to make the news that you bring real?
My first rule is listen to people. The first rule is not to get information from the authorities, but to look for information from people on the ground. And so this is the main source. This is my main rule.
And that it means people from both sides or
No,
from different...
I mostly mean Palestinians, of course, but also Israelis who are working against the occupation. So these are actually my main sources, or my initial sources. And this is also my guide to decide about the hierarchy, which is a different hierarchy of news mentality than the general, because the normal mentality is that the most important is what comes from official sources, be it directly or indirectly, be it leaked or be it formal. But this is the general idea. And my idea is that the most important, at the top of my hierarchy, my own hierarchy, is what comes from the people. So I get to... It's also my contacts. I don't have contacts with officials, neither Palestinian nor Israeli.
Because you don't want them, or
No,
because they don't talk to you?
Because I think it's my nature and it's my type of work, and also my... I mean, I wish I had a secret source who would call me every day and give me a scoop. I just don't have it. What can I do? But so I guess it's also my nature. But also, you know, when you have contacts with officials, then it always has to be in exchange for something. And I don't really have something to give in exchange. I mean, there are Israeli journalists who do have some Palestinian sources, official Palestinian sources, but they probably can give them some information from the Israeli military. I don't know. I mean, I have, other than write against the occupation, I have nothing to give in return. Personally. So this is my main rule. Another rule, for example, is not to use the official language or the official jargon. Very often you have official jargon like terrorism or terror or terrorists. I never use it. As much as I despise attacks against civilians, I will never use the term terrorist. I will look for other... Because then we have to start, and that's what I write, for example, that's when the English translate, Haaretz is in English too, so they, as you know, and then they translate my articles, and in Hebrew you can say an attack without saying terrorist attack, but you can say that this is attack, and it is strong, a strong word, but not a terrorist attack, and they would translate terrorist attack, and I ask them to erase it. I say, if we said that everything that Israel, I mean, that bombing Gaza is a terrorist attack, okay, so we are even. Also then I will ask the questions if it's even. But we're not using the same terms to talk about an Israeli military attack against civilians. This is not called terror. So because we're not going to call it terror ever, I don't want to call terror what Palestinians are doing. I will express my indignation of it in another way. So this is another rule.
And you use that rule because you want to create, through using other terms, another discourse, you want to create another reality?
No, I say that this is the reality. So I want to show that the reality it's not the, I don't say, I'm not postmodern. It's not the reality as I see it. This is the reality. The reality is of Israeli domination over the Palestinians. And then many things stem out of it. It's not a reality of even relationship between two warring parties. This is not the reality. It is Israeli colonialist takeover over the Palestinians.
And for you, that is also the reason why you say, I write against the occupation.
Of course.
It's not as if you're outside or you try to understand. You have a position, and that is not a problem for your journalism.
No. It's not a problem for me. It's not a problem for the paper. We're all clear that, yes, I have a you can say ideology. I have a position. I'm against the occupation. So I'm careful about what I'm about looking for facts. I'm not endorsing everything that Palestinians are doing because of the occupation. On the contrary, I'm known to be very critical also of Palestinians, of all levels and all things. But my initial position is that I'm against the occupation. I'm covering wrongdoing done by Israel for the last 50 years. This is my mission.
Would that be a third rule? Good journalism is involved and takes a position?
I don't believe that journalists can be neutral. I don't think that there is any journalist who is neutral. On the contrary, if you are neutral, then it means you side with a strong party. I mean, unless you write or you cover, I don't know, fashion shows, but I guess also there are wars between, I don't know, or you write about biology or whatever. I mean, bring me a journalist today who writes about global warming and is not against, does not have a position against
fossil fuels.
Exactly, and careless industry or whatever. You have a position. You have eyes, you have brains, you have emotions, so you have a position.
In a situation, in a context like the one that you work in and you write about, the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, which is so polarized, what does that mean then in terms of finding your facts and your sources, in terms of reaching readers when you have a position in a polarized situation like that?
Look, the problem is not to find information. Information is really in abundance, and it's quite easy to get information. We also managed to get a lot of information through the Act on Freedom of Information. So it's not hidden. It's done in front of our very eyes. The thing is, the problem is not about giving the information. The problem is about Israelis reading or getting or wanting to know the information. Israelis don't want to know. So this is the main obstacle. I know, now we know because Haaretz is on website, online, and we can tell that the news which talk about occupation are not the most popular ones. So you can tell it. Before, when it was only paper, you would maybe dream that people see it. But now they just don't bother to click.
But still, it's worthwhile and it's necessary to continue reporting and giving the information.
Of course. I mean, first of all, luckily Haaretz is in English, so it's read outside. This is first. Second, it is read by certain elites or by the authorities, and sometimes you feel you have an influence not on the general policies, the big stuff, but you would have some impact on personal stories, like a permit here, a permit there, I don't know, something, but this is not the policy itself.
The conflicts in Israel-Palestine used to dominate the headlines for a few decades. The past few years, it has been almost sidelined by more grueling violence in the neighborhood. Does that help the news environment in Israel to take a step back and to report more carefully, or doesn't it impact on how news is being made inside?
I must say that I don't follow the other papers so thoroughly. I know that they just don't bother. I think in general the Israelis are very, you know, there is this kind of satisfaction that you see the world accepts us because it's worse. It's worse outside. It's worse in Syria. Palestinians are better off in Israel and the occupied territory than they are in Syria, and things like that. I personally don't feel it has a direct impact, that it has changed the nature of the information industry on the Israeli-Palestinian situation. In general, they're not interested, be it because of Syria or not. The general media in Israel is not interested in the real reality of Israeli domination over the Palestinians.
And would that also hold for the relationship between Israel and Iran, for instance? Is there a lack of interest, or is there an abundance of fear that makes it difficult to report?
I believe that Netanyahu succeeded less than he hoped to make people so afraid of Iran. I'm not, I mean, and this is because you know that a few years ago, when he wanted to have, as we heard, he was in favor of attacking Iran, it is the military that blocked him. And the Israeli military actually are quite, you know, they are the main voice that people love to hear and to respect. So when they say that the danger from Iran is not how Netanyahu portrays it, or that the contract or the agreement between Europe and America and Iran is positive, so people listen to them.
One last question. When you would be in a position to advise media around the world about their reporting on the conflict in Israel and Palestine, what would be your main advice for media outside?
First, don't use the term conflict, because conflict gives a sense that this is symmetrical situation, and it is not. Don't shy at seeing that there is a process of colonization and apartheid. Don't be misled by Oslo, because Oslo process was not a peace process from the start. So it's not that something went amiss by accident, but deliberately Israel did everything possible to prevent statehood, of Palestinian statehood. So this was not, what we are facing today is not an unfortunate mistake or unfortunate coincidence or whatever. It was deliberate. And at the same time, don't, you know, Palestinians are under occupation, but don't hesitate to criticize them as well, or to see the shortcomings in Palestinian struggle or in Palestinian politics or whatever. It's not something that it doesn't lessen the necessity and the rightfulness of their fight against occupation.
That's a clear advice. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for inviting.